Hello. It was a cold and wintry day in January of 1986, and I was standing behind the counter of a popular fast food restaurant. I was flipping hamburgers for the many hungry customers who would soon be climbing their way up to the counter to order. Before we were expecting any mass of hungry customers, my father walked in and up to the counter. He wasn't there to order. He said, "Joshua, I hope you like your windy uniform, because right now, that is all the clothing you own. Our house just burned to the ground." Not exactly something you want to hear every day. I come from a large family of 7 children. I am the second oldest. For the past 2 years, we have been living in a handmade log cabin in the central part of the state of Georgia. Our cabin wasn't one of those fancy log cabins that you see and rent out in the mountains to have a good time. Our cabin had been built using a chainsaw, some nails, and a few hundred feet of plastic wrap to keep the wind from blowing between the stacked logs. We had no electricity, no indoor plumbing. Our only running water was when we ran down to the corner grocery store to fill our 5-gallon water jug. We have been using a pot-belly stove for heating and cooking, and an ice chest to store our food. It wasn't exactly the most luxurious of living conditions, but it was all we could afford at the time, and it was home. As my family and I returned to the scene of our now former home, all that was left was a pile of ashes. It had burned to the ground. We had lost everything we owned. Why God allowed this to happen? We didn't know. Only a short 3 months earlier, as I was away at college, I received a telephone call saying my grandfather had just died. He had been hit by a drunk driver and had died from the complications of the accident. That was probably the worst day of my life. Since my grandfather had been not only my grandfather, but my best friend. As I flew up to Kentucky for the funeral, once again, there was that question: why did God allow this to happen? I didn't know. Those are just 2 of the many incidents that seem to plague my family over the years. We soon got to the point where we said, well, at least nothing can happen to us now that hasn't happened already. And to some extent, that was quite true. At the age of only 4, I was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Because of the deadliness of this type of cancer that I had, my doctor gave me only 1 week to live. They told my parents, as far as they were concerned, I had 0 chance of survival. For the next several months, I hung close to the borderline of death, and once even stopped breathing. Again, there was a question. Why, God? Why did you allow that to happen? God miraculously healed me from the cancer. However, as a result of the radiation and cancer treatment, my vocal cord was partially paralyzed, my throat was studded, and several other scars would remain with me for life. Humanly speaking, my life was ruined. At least, this time, I know the answer to that question. Why, God? God has used my personal life story to be an encouragement and a challenge and help to literally thousands of people across the United States and around the world. God has a plan, and as usual, His plan was perfect. His plan worked. I can honestly say it was worth it to have cancer, because I've been able to touch so many lives. I've been able to help so many people. And to the other mentioned items, trials, and problems that I faced, the house burning down, the death of my grandfather, and other incidents that I have been through, I still don't know the answer. But one day, I will. One day, I will see it all work together for good. I will understand what God's plan was, and how it all worked for His honor and for His glory. You see, we as humans are practically trained to ask, why God? When a problem or trial comes in our life. We seem to expect everything to happen in our lives just perfectly. We want life to be a bed of roses or a silver platter. However, without trials and troubles, we will never learn to depend upon God. We will never learn to truly trust Him. Had I any control over the problems and circumstances and trials that happened in my life? No. They were all carefully orchestrated by God. The Bible tells us, and we know, that all things work together for good to them who love God, in Romans chapter 8 and verse 28. God has already planned out to his perfect design, to his perfect plan. He is the contractor. We are simply the empty lot, waiting for him to build his perfect masterpiece upon. Of course, the one mistake many people make is to get mad and upset at God when things and we see them go wrong. However, if you are a Christian and you have trusted Jesus Christ as your Savior and Lord, let me remind you, you of one thing. You and your life no longer belong to you. You belong to God. You were bought with a price, the price of the blood of his Son, who died on the cross. The major problem with so many Christians today is they have not allowed God to control their life. They have not totally and completely surrendered everything to Him. They simply try to tack Christianity onto their comfortable lifestyle. That, I'm sorry, is not true Christianity. When hardship comes and trials rear their ugly head, it is easy to wonder why. It is easy to wonder how God could possibly be in the midst of that. But He is. God is not the God of evil, but when trouble comes, He masterfully takes that trouble, that trial, and shapes it into an instrument in our heart and in our lives that teaches us to trust Him and obey Him no matter what happens. Trust Him. The psalm writer said, trust Him when dark doubt assails thee. Trust Him when thy strength is small. Trust Him when to simply trust Him seems the hardest thing of all. Trust Him. He is ever faithful. Trust Him, for His will is best. Trust Him, for the heart of Jesus is the only place to rest. When the roof caves in, the floor falls out, and the walls are on fire, and your life seems to be going nowhere but to destruction. If you know God, and you have a relationship with Him, and your life is right with Him, all those things, no matter how difficult they may seem, are part of His plan. Remember to trust Him, to love Him, and to obey Him in all that you do. And you'll find one day that even the hardest things you've been through were for His honor and His glory. Please like and subscribe to this channel, and remember, God loves you. He cares for you. He wants to know you and give you an amazing, awesome life. Thank you.